All right, hello everyone. My name is Kevin, and I'm here with Novedge Marketing Manager Aurora Meneghello, and we'd both like to welcome you all to our latest Novedge webinar series episode. Aurora, please say hi.
Hi everybody, I'm glad to be back today.
And guess what? We have, since today is a webinar about Rhino 5, we have with us Maia. Maia, please say hi.
Hi everybody, welcome.
Maia Merav Holtzman. She is an authorized Rhino trainer, and I'm trying to remember right now how Novedge first met Design Rhino. Where do we start?
I think that somehow or other I joined Rhino Jungle, and then you reached out to me about helping me promote some of my classes, and one thing led to another, and I found myself out in San Francisco a few months ago teaching classes at Novedge.
Awesome. This is so cool. This is it's a better story than Twilight. I'm kidding. I don't. But cool. Well, today's webinar presentation will be about 40 minutes long, and afterwards we'll have a brief live Q&A session where Maia and Pascal Golay from McNeel, Pascal, please say hi if you will, and both of them will be fielding technical questions about Rhino 5 from those attending. So if you don't know who Maia Merav Holtzman is, that was Pascal. She is an authorized Rhino trainer. She runs a series of intensive Rhino 3D workshops at Design Rhino, a McNeel Associates authorized training center. She's a jewelry and industrial designer, and she also uses Rhino 3D to create models for her own line of limited edition jewelry designs. Maia holds a degree in jewelry making and design from the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, a BA from Columbia University, and an extremely underutilized JD from Tulane Law School. So before we get going with today's presentation, here's an overview of what we do at Novedge. The Novedge webinar series is brought to you by Novedge.com. As one of the largest online design software stores, we offer a huge assortment of software solutions that cater to virtually every designer's need. If you're interested in purchasing a copy of Rhino 5, it is available in both Canada and the United States from us at Novedge as a digital delivery with zero sales tax. To learn more about McNeel's premier modeling software, Rhino 5, get in touch with our sales representative, Bob Thayer. You can reach him by his email address, bob@novedge.com. Aurora, I think you have some words you want to shout out to.
Yes, I want to remind, I want to remind everybody to join Rhino Jungle. It's a great community where you can interact with other Rhino users and ask questions and get feedback on your work. And also we have a blog where we post twice a week interviews with artists and innovators. So take a look, read our interviews, subscribe to the RSS feed, and send us an email if there's an artist you would like to see featured. Also, next week, we are going to host our very first virtual panel on Google Hangout on air. So it's going to be about the future of jewelry design and 3D printing. Maia is going to be back with us to talk about Rhino and her business as a jewelry designer. We're going to have Pedro Loureiro, who's a Rhino Gold Training Manager from TDM Solutions, and Tatiana Deve, Community Manager at Materialize. They will share their expertise on the business of jewelry design and the emerging technologies that will transform the industry in the years ahead. So this is free and will also be recorded and broadcast live as a Google Hangout. So you can send us questions while you watch, and we will have a Q&A during the panel discussion. And then following that, on May 15th is our next webinar, webinar number 71. And Autodesk Marc-Andre Ferguson will show us how Smoke unifies the process of editing and visual effects into one software package. We'll go behind the scenes with the hit short Fix It in Post, a project completed entirely in Smoke 2013. And we'll find out why more visual storytellers are turning to Smoke to achieve their most desired results. And again, this webinar is free as always and will last about 1 hour, including the Q&A session. So you can check the details on our webinar page at novedge.com/webinar 71.
Also, just a reminder, today's webinar is recorded, so if you want to hear Maia and Pascal do the whole presentation about Rhino 5 again and again and again, you can rewatch this episode, number 70, in its entirety. As always, you can find it on our Novedge webinar series channel through Vimeo and YouTube. Now, with that said, Maya, are you ready?
I am.
Cool. I will switch to you.
Cool.
Awesome. You're going to be the presenter in 3 seconds. 3, 2, and 1.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So, hi everybody, and welcome again to Rhino Better, Bigger, Faster, where I'm going to go over some of the most awesome stuff that I'm loving using in Rhino v5. By way of introduction, Kevin suggested yesterday that I just show you guys my website rather than putting more slides up. So I'm not going to go too much into this because we don't have a lot of time and there's a ton of stuff to get into, but I just wanted to let you know that the training site that I have is called Design Rhino, and you can find out about classes. There are going to be classes in San Francisco and Los Angeles coming up in the next couple of months. Here you can learn more about me here. There I am. Hi, everyone. I have a gallery with a few finished pieces of rendered 3D models here, and I also have a nice information page that will give you links to a bunch of Rhino-specific stuff, including rapid prototyping stuff and rendering information. And there's a contact page here, which is the most important thing. If anybody after this webinar wants to reach out for any reason, feel free to ask questions. I really like to stay in contact with people, and I like the community element that I feel is so prevalent in the Rhino user community. So definitely shout me out, ask whatever you like. If I can help you, I will. Otherwise, I'll pass you on to Pascal. And finally, please do take advantage of Pascal. He's sitting there behind the scenes. He's been really generous in helping me out today because there are a ton of people registered for this webinar, and I wanted to be sure that we got as many questions answered as possible, and so he's just going to be there nailing them and helping you guys to understand whatever I'm not being helpful with. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and just jump into my Rhino screen. There we are, and get started. Just going to open up my control panel because I think I want to keep my eye here in case anybody has any problems. So give me 1 second. Okay. And I am going to just close these out. Great. So what I have here is a finished model of one of my favorite things in the world, which is my Bialetti coffee maker. And it has the materials applied to it, the Rhino basic materials that come as a default in the v5 program. And I'm going to show you, as part of my demo today, a little bit about how I modeled this using new features in Rhino v5. So without further ado, one of the first things that I'd like to do is go ahead and set up a new feature in v5 called the clipping plane that will allow us to see what's going on inside this model. So you can access your clipping planes either in your new in v5 toolbar tab, which is right here, clipping plane, or you can just type it in as usual. And I'm going to create a clipping plane based on this piece of reference geometry that I've already created. I'm just going to drag this plane across the top of my model. And for a second here, I'm going to go ahead and do something that's really cool also in Rhino v5, which is the ability to just drag out a floating viewport into the corner of your screen. Floating viewports existed in v4, but they didn't have this ease of movement that we have now. So I can just drag that out, and I don't have to worry about placing it back in or resetting my viewports. If I look at my 4 views, they're still here as normal, which is really nice. So what my clipping plane allows me to do is to look at cross-sections inside my model, basically infinite cross-sections. So I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in here. And I'm going to start dragging the clipping plane down in my right viewport. And what you'll see happening is that as the plane moves down through the screen, it starts to take away the visual element of this model. So we can see what's going on inside the model without actually having to remove any of the pieces of the model from the top. And I can actually keep going down through the entire model here and see every single cross section piece by piece to the bottom. So this is a really, really, really cool tool. Not only does it allow me this visual ability, but it also allows me the ability to get into areas that in the past were like a little bit hard to see. So if you had this sort of vessel type shaped object in the past, even something like this, it would have been very difficult for us in V4 to get in here to work. Now I can keep my clipping plane on and I can actually start working here if I want to. I can, place an object inside and I can see what's going on without having to sort of peer in through the shadows or without having to be necessarily in a wireframe if I choose not to be. So this is a really, really great tool, something that I think lots and lots of different types of designers are going to love using. I just wanted to give you a little sense of how we're moving forward here in our ability to see stuff in Rhino. So I'm just going to hit delete to get rid of my clipping plane. And you see that it pops right back up just like that. And I'm going to close out my right viewport and go back into my 4 views here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the user interface. So Rhino's always been really good about being customizable, and they've just taken it a step further in V5. We have tons of customizable features. All of these tabs up here, these tab toolbars, are customizable. For example, we can right-click over any of them and pull down the Show or Hide Tabs menu and decide which of these toolbars we'd like to show as tabs at the top of our viewports there. The ones that are currently shown by default are bolded here, and they have a check mark next to them. We can just click them to get rid of them, or we can add additional ones, or we can create our own here. If we want to create our own toolbar, we can then make it into a tab, add it to the top there, which is really, really cool. Another nice thing that we have here is the ability to dock some of these toolbars in new places in Rhino. So one of the toolbars that I always use, because I'm like a bit of, well, we all like pick up bad habits when we're starting out. My bad habit is my use of the cars for my plan views. So I just, for some reason, I don't like to use plan. I like to use the cars, so I do. So I always have my cars, my cascading menu with the cars flown out. And I can just stick it up here and take up some of this unused space in my command history. And I'm really happy to, be able to have this opened up and not be sort of like cluttering up my desktop or my viewports with that. The other thing that I'm going to put up there is my filter, which is one of the panes down here in the status bar that I absolutely love. This is called the selection filter. And it gives you the option of choosing which types of objects you want to be able to pick. So it's sort of like a reverse lock. If I turn off my poly surfaces and I try to select them, it won't allow me to do so. If I want to select one thing that I'd like to be able to check, I can right-click on it and I'll get rid of everything else. And if I right-click again, all of the options will come back as possibilities. That's true with everything, by the way. That's true with the OSNAPs as well down here. If I want to only work with my quad OSNAP, I can right-click there, and it will turn all the OSNAPs off, and then I can right-click again, and it will bring back the ones that I originally had toggled on. So I'm going to dock my selection filter up here, and you'll notice that when you dock your menus or toolbars, you get a blue, sort of sheer blue highlight in the area in which you can dock it, because there's so many different parts of our user interface now that allow docking. So that's the way that you'll know that it is going into the place that you'd like it to be. So a couple of other things before we move on to actual modeling about our customizable features. We have on the right-hand side here these tabbed panels. The defaults are layers, properties, display, and help, which I don't have up here right now. But there are a bunch of panels that we can actually show if we want to. So if I right-click over any of these tabbed panels, I'm given this drop-down menu, and I can choose all kinds of cool stuff. For example, something that I really love is the calculator. And I can add this calculator to my tabbed panels and just toggle among the different panels as I need. A few other things. I mean, basically all the stuff that's here is stuff that almost all of it existed in V4, but it's now either more easy to access or it's stuff that's been adjusted a little bit. For example, our named views panel here now allows us to actually see a visual of a view if we save it. So if I want to render this and I like the specific positioning of this and I want to be able to go back and render it multiple times with different materials or whatever, I can just click Save As, and then you'll see actually, if I just twist that around, you'll see your little view in this small box here. I just right-click that and it will bring me right back to my named view. So that's a really nice addition to just a facility of grabbing this possibility. And just in case, because I don't know how quickly everything is updating, can I hear from you if my screen is moving? Kevin, can I hear from you if everything's going great with my screen and the pace of the
Yeah. I mean, your
updating?
cursor is it's updating pretty fast. Yeah, Sterling, Adam, they feel the same way. It looks good.
Awesome. Excellent.
Yeah. I want some
Okay.
coffee. Cool.
So if I want to get rid of these, I just uncheck them, basically. And one more thing that I want to mention, just because a couple of my students have been having an issue with this, is that this obviously is undockable, which is fantastic because we want to be able to move things around to make our workflow most comfortable for us. But I've had a couple of students actually lose it, so, and then freak out because they don't know how to find that again. So the easiest way to grab it is just to right-click down here in your layers pane, and it'll pop right back up, and you can just redock. See that purpley blue thing? You can also find this. You can have the same result if you drop down this drop-down panels menu and click on any of these layers or whichever, and it'll bring it right back. Just so you know. Really quickly. Cool things. One great new cool thing is that our unit of measurement is now listed here at the bottom in this measurement unit pane. And if I want to know which layer an object belongs to, so it demonstrates, this layers pane demonstrates or lets us know which layer is our working layer at the moment. But if I want to know what layer one object in my scene is from, if I highlight it, it will tell me which layer it belongs to, which is a really nice addition here. This is all pretty standard stuff that I think most of you are familiar with. The last pane that's sort of interesting is the info pane, which is right here. And if you go through this, it gives you a bunch of technical information about your computer and how it relates to Rhino and a few other things. You can choose these as well by toggling them on and off with these clicking buttons, and this will just scroll through one after the next over and over again. So let's get started on some modeling now. I'm just going to go ahead and turn off this model, and the first thing that I'm going to do is go into this little bit of I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an overview of the Gumball, which is one of the panes at the bottom that we didn't talk about. I think a lot of people are familiar with the gumball, so I'm not going to get too in-depth about, or I'm not going to take too much time going over it, but I do want to give a very quick overview of how it works. So if I highlight the gumball pane down here, and I select an object or multiple objects, the gumball will position itself as in what I think is either the volume or area centroid of your object. I believe that that's what Rhino has set it to be. It seems that way to me most of the time. If I choose more than one object, it sort of positions itself in the averaged center of the area of those two objects. So it's kind of nice for getting a sense of where the center of an object is in one way or another. We have other tricks for doing that, like finding your actual area or volume centroid, but if you turn this on, you'll kind of know where your object center is. And we have 3 different basic functionalities with the gumball. Using these arrow tools, buttons I call them, we can freeform drag objects along the axes of our C-plane. We can also scale objects either in 1 or 3. This is a 1-degree scale. If I want to do a 1D scale, if I want to do a 3D scale, I just depress the Shift key on my computer, and it allows me to scale in 3D. I can scale in 3D along the 3 axes of my C-plane as well. And finally, it allows me to freeform rotate along the axes of my C-plane. So in addition to these freeform tools, I can also, if I depress for a slightly longer moment than you might think, and let go of my mouse, it allows me to input a value for dragging. So if I want to drag this 2 centimeters, I press enter and it just drags it straight up, basically orthographically along my z-axis there. So same thing with rotation. If I input a value, if I want to rotate this 30 degrees, it will rotate 30 degrees. If I do negative 30, it will rotate in the other direction. And that's basically the functional use. We also have this little window pane type icon here that allows us like a more freeform drag. So that's the basic function of the gumball. Now we have another function of the gumball which is a little bit more advanced, and that is the extrusion function. So here I have a star, which is a polyline, a curve that I created, and of course I can drag it with my gumball, but I can also make this into a surface extrusion. And the way that I do that is by starting to do my drag and then depressing the control key on my computer, letting it go, and you'll see here that I've created a surface from that curve. Additionally, if I delete that and I do a planar surface, I can drag the surface and depress the control button, and I can create a solid extrusion here. So you see that it's solid. I'm actually going to switch into a different mode really quickly. I'm going to ghost everything for a second here. So you see that I have created a solid extrusion, and that was just a free form drag. I can also do both a surface extrusion and a solid extrusion with an input value. The way that I do that is by dragging, and let's say I want to make this a 10 centimeter high extrusion. I'll just type in 10 and press enter, and now you see that I've been constrained along my z-axis to 10 centimeters in either direction, and now if I depress control, I have created a 10 centimeter high surface extrusion. I can do the same thing for a solid extrusion. Finally, with the gumball, I can orient my gumball. So this one is already oriented here, so I'm going to actually reset it just so I can reorient it to show you guys. So the gumball's natural behavior is to follow the axes of your C-plane. And one of the things that I've always found sort of irritatingly tricky, or not irritatingly tricky, but just something that required a little bit more work than I wanted to do, was when I had non-planar in relation to the C-plane objects, rotating them becomes a little bit difficult. And so so generally what we do is we actually reorient our C-plane, or we use to reorient the C-plane to this object and then rotate it. Now what we can do with our gumball is we can actually hit this white little round ball here that I think is called the bunny tail or the rabbit tail. Pascal knows better than me, which opens up a menu here. And I can say relocate gumball. And it's going to ask me for my gumball origin. I'm just going to relocate my gumball to make the origin the end point of this surface here. And then if I accept the default, it'll just reorient the center of the gumball to this end here, but it will leave the gumball directionally related to the C-plane. If I don't want it directionally related to the C-plane, I can actually set my x-axis by hitting end here and set my y-axis by hitting end there. And now you'll note that my gumball has actually readjusted, so it's not related to my C-plane anymore. And what this allows me to do, I have history on these two pieces, is do a rotation. Let's say I want to rotate this 30 degrees in space that uses this axis running along this edge of this surface that is completely not related to the surface itself, to the construction plane itself. So I really think that that's a great use of this tool. I love it. One other thing in this screen that I'd like to show you guys is another cool new feature. If I go into my shaded viewport, you'll notice that I'm actually going to extrude this one more time. You'll notice that we have two different colors on this surface, right? The interior color is this kind of ochre, and the exterior color is a silvery color. This is only in the shaded viewport. And what the people at McNeel have very wisely done is given us the ability to determine the direction of a surface based on its color. So if I want to just figure out what direction this surface is heading in, rather than having to do my analyzed direction, I will know that my surface direction is heading out in the direction of the silver side. And if I go ahead and analyze direction, I can flip it, and now you'll see that all of my normals were pointing inwards, and now this is no longer, the direction of my surface is now pointing inwards as well. This is a really, really, really cool tool that I love for stuff like flow on surface, where you need to make sure that two surfaces have matching surface directions, or for certain kinds of Boolean actions where you need to make sure that they have opposing directions. So that's the basic gumball stuff and a little bit about surfaces. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn this off, and I'm going to delete that and that. And I'm going to turn on my construction lines for making the coffee maker. So I have some construction geometry here because we don't have a ton of time. And the first thing that I'm going to want to do is create a polygon from center with 8 sides. And the center of my polygon is going to be this point object here. And what I'm going to do is something that has nothing to do with Rhino v5, but I just learned this the other day, and I think it's so cool that maybe I'm a super dork and I'm the only one who didn't know this, but I wanted to demonstrate this to you guys because I think it's just the best thing ever. I've been like dividing things in half for the past 5 years in Rhino, and I just found out that if I know the corner to corner dimension of this object, I can just enter it in divided by 2 and it will give me half of that. So I know that this is 13.4 centimeters corner to corner. So I'm going to type in 13.4 times or divided by 2, enter, and the total distance here is now 13.4. Haha, I think that's pretty great. And now I'm going to do a planar surface, and I'm going to extrude this down using the same tool that we used before in the Gumball demo. I'm going to type in a value, 10.91 centimeters, enter. So now I'm constrained, and I'm going to hit Control, and I've just created a solid extrusion here. So this solid extrusion obviously needs to be tapered, and the way that we're going to do that is by using sub-object selection and scaling. So sub-object selection is another thing that did exist as well in Rhino v4, but it's just been massively improved in terms of what we can use it for in v5. So in order to sub-object select part of an object, you depress the Shift and Control keys, and then with your mouse you pick with your left click, and you see that I've now highlighted the base surface of this closed poly surface. I'm going to turn my gumball off for a second because for this particular base I am actually going to use my traditional scaling technique from my transform menu. So I'm going to scale 3D. I'm going to hit my origin point in the center here, mid. One other cool thing to notice is that they've done this really great thing in Rhino v5. Well, I'll get into that in a second because I want to show you how to access this if you don't, but they've allowed us to highlight whatever it is that our OSNAP snaps to. So now, rather than trying to guess, we can tell pretty much for sure, are we snapping to the right thing? It's fantastic. So I'm just going to snap to this end here, and then I'm going to snap. And you see how we have this preview of what our changed shape, our edited shape is going to look like. I'm going to snap to the end again. And Rhino has updated this closed solid. Still closed solid. I can go ahead and do an edge analysis on it. Totally closed. No naked edges. No well, we don't care about that, but no naked edges. And it's just updated the shape based on me updating the surface. So each edge is still tangent to the original edge that it was tangent to, which is so cool. So now, the first thing that I want to do here for this coffee maker is I'm going to shell it. Shelling is another really great command that is new in v5. I just typed in shell, but actually you can find your shell command in your solid tools. It looks like what we're creating, except that it's a hexagon, but it's this sort of like empty walled vessel here. So let's say shell, and then Rhino's going to prompt you to remove a face from a closed poly surface. Note that it must be a closed poly surface. And it's going to ask you for a thickness. In this case, the thickness is correct. I want it to be 0.2 centimeters. And I'm going to select this face up here at the top and press enter. And you'll see that what happens is Rhino very, very, very cleanly and beautifully creates this nice empty vessel for me, which I absolutely love. It's one of the best things ever. Thank you, Pascal. So the next thing I'm going to do here, because we have this protruding part where the coffee comes up through, is I'm going to create another extrusion. And the way that I'm going to do this, I think the easiest way to do it is just to go ahead. I'm going to go back to my standard, and I'm going to go ahead and select split. I'm going to split this object, and I'm going to use this reference geometry or this construction geometry that I already created to split with. Press enter. And now I'm going to select this surface that I've separated from the closed poly surface, this is no longer a closed poly surface for the moment. And I'm going to turn my gumball on again, and I'm going to drag this up. Pretty much anywhere will be fine. It doesn't have to be exact. And holding down Control again to make it a solid, I'm going to create this solid shape. And then I'm going to select my two objects and just gluing them together. Now I'm going to do another sub-object selection. And this time I'm going to sub-object select the top of this cylinder that I just created. Escape. So now I can use my scaling button here on my gumball to scale in this surface, and the tangent surface will follow it. You notice that unless I hit Shift, it's only going to scale in 1D, so I have to hit the Shift button, and then I'm just going to sort of eyeball it, let go, and you'll see that it's updated now. I'm going to hit that one more time. Shift in just a tiny bit more, and it updates, and now I have a tapered cylinder here, and it's still completely, everything is still attached. There are no mini tears here. It's just a really, really cool thing. Then I'm going to go down to the bottom here, and I'm going to perform a similar action. I'm going to split this solid with this pre-created curve. And then I'm going to drag this curve down, and I'm going to put in a value of 1.7 centimeters and hit Control and create another solid there, another lightweight extrusion. That's another really cool thing. These extrusions are lightweight, so they don't take up as much memory as they used to, which makes our workflow when we're doing big scenes really amazingly good. So I'm going to go ahead and Boolean those together also. And now I'm going to do another shell command, this time on the opposite side. Again, 0.2 is my thickness, and I'm going to select this face and press Enter. And so cool, I have now shelled this object in 2 directions. So it's been hollowed out in 2 directions, and it took me like a couple of minutes to do, you know. Just really, for me, is an amazing game changer in terms of workflow. And you can see what we have here in the ghosted mode. So I'm not going to get into too much of the rest of it because it's sort of repetitive, but basically I created this guy using that technique for the bottom and for the top part here. And then I just adjusted with some other stuff. And if you guys are curious to know more about what I did, definitely feel free to shoot me an email and I'll give you the whole, I would actually be happy to send you the file. So that's this. And then I'm going to show you another tool for manipulating surfaces, and that I'm really liking as well. So I'm going to turn this off. I know we're running short on time, but I'd like to be able to get through this stuff. I think we're pretty good. So one other thing that I didn't mention but that I would like to mention is that if I go into my front viewport for just 1 second, one other thing that I love that has been added to Rhino v5 is a macro that I think a lot of us had in the past, which is the mirror across axes command. So everybody, I mean, I think I use the mirror command maybe almost more than anything else. And now what we're able to do is just use our axes to mirror an object. So instead of having to input a value, I can just say x-axis here. You'll see that I've just hit that over my x-axis, and now I have like a perfect mirror using 0 along the x-axis, which is really cool. So that's that, and I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to go into my handle right here. So I just went ahead and imported a picture frame with a front view of my Violetti coffee maker and traced using interpolated curve the outside of the handle here. And you'll notice that I have this little place that's not hitting this oval, which is the beginning of representing a surface that I'm going to create. So one of the cool commands that is new in V5 that I could use, I mean, we can always extend this curve here easily, but there's a new command called continue curve that allows us to continue a curve based upon exact mathematical elements of the original curve that we drew. So if I drew this curve and I ended it and then I realized, oops, I really want to continue going, instead of having to add a new curve and join them together and potentially not have this beautiful continuity, now I can just go ahead and select near this curve and go forward here. The other thing about that is if you ever find yourself running into an issue, you can just flip the direction of the curve and you can flip the side that the curve is going to, the new extended curve. So I'm going to end there, and I'm going to use a command called Tween Curves. And basically what Tween Curves does is it averages two external curves to make one or more curves that resemble them. Actually, I really hate that curve that I just created, so I'm going to undo that. I wonder why it looks like that. Tween Curves. Okay. So we have a bunch of different methods of matching, and you can go through them to see which one suits your needs best. In this case, I am going to use refit just because I want to show a particular thing with that. So I have this single curve there. One thing that I do want to show you, though, is that we have an option of making many curves in between the two original curves. So if I choose to make 30 of them, you'll see that I've just created 30 graduated curves that are the average of the two external curves. Really, really fun. This command also exists for surfaces. It's called Tween Surfaces or Tween Surface. So in this case, I just want one. Actually, I can do, yeah, I'm going to do one. And I'm going to move this. I'm going to move this curve from its end to the quad here, and then I'm going to copy it from end to the other quad. And now I have the beginnings of what can potentially be my handle. I'm going to go ahead and loft these curves. Closed loft, and I'm going to say OK. And you'll see that I can turn on my control points for this surface. Now, in the past, this would not have been an option because this would have been considered a poly surface. The reason why I'm able to turn those control points on is because of a new command called crease splitting. If I have, this is a global command here. So it doesn't apply to one action. It applies globally to your workflow, and I'm not sure if it stays set based on Pascal will know this, if it stays set based on your one Rhino file or if it's going to stay in your user interface as you define it to be. But so if I say split along creases no, that means that it's not going to recognize the areas that would have been, so let me just do that again. Let's just show split on creases yes. Now if I loft these again, closed, loft, and say okay. Now if I go in to turn on my points, you see that I can't edit this because it won't allow me to turn on points for polysurface. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to go to crease splitting one more time. Split along creases no, and now I'm going to do one more loft here. Okay, and now I can rebuild this surface, which I couldn't have done before. Okay, and now I can turn on my control points and I can start to control point edit. And I can actually control point edit this using my gumball, because my gumball will allow me, if I do select U here, and I select all of the points in my U direction as I go up, and then I just go ahead and scale these in, I can start doing some surface editing. I'm actually going to show you guys why this filter is so great. Now I cannot grab those curves, and I can just shift and start editing this until it makes me happy. Okay. Anyway, I think that I've gone past the time that I'm really supposed to go past. I wanted to get into some basic stuff about the rendering capabilities of Rhino, but there's a really great series of Rhino v5 webinars on the McNeel page that go, 7 hours worth of them, that go into greater depth about all of these techniques. So if you guys want to get more, definitely go find those. They're great, and there's a really good one that's like an hour long that's only about rendering. So I think that's it. Thanks for spending the hour, 45 minutes with me, and I'm looking forward to hearing any questions.
Cool. Okay, Maya, let's take a look. I think Pascal answered a whole bunch of them, but if there's anything that you want to check out in specifically, go for it. Let's look at this one. Okay, so is there any way to use a mesh to cut a cube? The mesh would actually be a real wave surface from RealFlow, and I need a solid with one face from the mesh. I also would do the same with a topographical surface from the U.S. Geological, USGA. This is from James. Thank you, James, for the question.
Okay. I might shoot that to Pascal, but I would say a couple of things. I know that it depends on where the mesh originates and whether or not we need to use a reverse engineering technique to turn it into a NURB surface or not. If it's a Rhino mesh, then I think we can just turn it back into a NURB surface very easily now and use that as a cutter for sure. But this is the kind of question where I would want to actually probably see the file and know what file format it was. So unless Pascal has more insight into that question, if you shoot me an email about this and maybe send me the file, I'd be really happy to help you with it.
Cool. Okay. Let's see. I already gave out your URLs. Oh wait, Pascal? Hello?
Hi.
Pascal?
On the mesh, yeah, on the mesh thing, you can use mesh split, mesh trim, mesh intersect. Those all work with good meshes. If the mesh is bad, then all bets are off.
So Pascal, can you do that with meshes that you import from another program, or can you? Sure. Or are we talking about Rhino meshes only?
Yeah, Rhino doesn't care. It's just that a lot of meshes are bad. They have bad,
Gotcha.
from Rhino's perspective, like non-manifold edges or other things that the intersector won't like. So you have to run check on the mesh and make sure that it's okay before you even try any of this stuff.
So yeah, definitely. The one answer that Pascal gave for James' question was mesh split. But yeah, if you have a question, feel free to send an email to Pascal or Maya about that. Let's move on here. Okay. I think you already covered the Gumball Manipulator, right, Maya?
I did cover it, yes, but I can
Okay.
certainly answer a question about it.
Okay, so yeah, so this is just how it works. But let's move on to Jay's question. Jay wanted to know will a V-Ray 2.0 ever be released for Rhino 5? I'm not
That's
sure.
That's a Pascal question too.
Yeah, we'll have to see about that. But Susan is wondering, can
Yeah, that's not up to
moving on. Can the clipping plane be a curved or complex surface? Example, not a plane. This is from Susan.
You know, I don't think so, but I would imagine I don't know. I mean, there may be a way to create a macro that allows it to do that. Is it possible, Pascal? A lot of these questions I don't know the answer to be honest. I only know that it works really well as a plane.
Yeah, they're planes. That's the only thing you can clip visually with right now.
So that's the answer to that. No, not at the moment. It is only a plane.
Okay, let's see. Can you extract cross sections with the clipping plane?
I think you can take a screenshot using Rhino if you want to get the visual element of it. You mean extract the surface using? Do you mean extract the surface edge that is shown using the clipping plane, or do you mean get the visual image of it?
Can you extract cross sections with the clipping plane? I'm not sure. Gary, would you like to follow up that question? Okay, so before we get back, okay, so let's get back to that one in just a bit. Let's move on to, here's a new one. This is from Euros. Do we have smooth options with control points? If we move one, we can influence on other points. This is from Euros. Thank you, Euros. Let me know if you can see that question, Maya.
I'm having trouble actually seeing any of my questions, unfortunately. My GoToWebinar menu seems to have frozen.
Uh-oh. Okay, let me know if you see this question right here.
Open anything up. Hold on, I'm trying. Can you repeat the question because I can't get it to open up?
Okay, do we have smooth options with control points? If we move one, we can influence on other points.
Smooth options with control points. Do you mean you want to? I'm not sure if I understand that question exactly.
Okay.
Can I butt in?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Pascal, button at any time.
Soft move is probably the closest thing to what the user wants. That works on anything, including control points or just objects. So if you move a point to another point, there's a fall off, and the other selected objects move less and less as they get farther away.
Cool.
So
all right.
soft move.
Soft move. Soft
So you're
move.
saying so your idea is that the gentleman who asked the question just wants to adjust the position of an individual control point? Because I heard.
I understand it is you select a control point and move it, and then neighboring control points will also move, but slightly less and
Sure.
slightly less as it moves away. And
Sure.
soft move will do that.
Right. I think also a nice way to do that, something that I really love to do and have been able to use to make little bitty adjustments in control point editing, is the insert not command. So if you have something like this and I just want to like push over some of my control points a little bit, I can go ahead and insert a knot on this surface, say here, and that will just move over some of the control points and create it creates an additional row of control points, but it also gives me control points in a different spot, and I can play around with that if I need to get them to move over a little bit.
Cool. Okay, moving on. Thomas has a question about, I think this is, we could definitely answer this one. What are your favorite workflows for jewelry design in Rhino?
Oh my God. What is that? Can you explain, I'm sorry, can you explain what you mean by workflow in that context?
Thomas, if you may.
Because there's so much to it.
Okay.
I mean, what I would say I definitely do almost always is I do start out with a hand sketch of everything, and then I import it into Rhino using a picture frame. I scale it. Maybe I'll even do 3 different views and bring them all in and start working from those different views using a bunch of different like skeletal creation techniques like interpolated curves and curve creation stuff. And then little by little, I just start surfacing everything. That's generally how I do it. I think a lot of the tools that I showed today, even though I didn't show jewelry making stuff, are really practically applicable to the jewelry design stuff that I do because, for example, everything that we make tends to be hollow. So it's really nice to be able to shell stuff and then manipulate surfaces and go back and sort of see, did I like it better like this or did I like it better like that without having to throw everything away and start from scratch. If you are asking me about my workflow from beginning to end, it's just a ton of stuff goes on. But I definitely think that the process has been, for me, really helpful or been really great with bringing in images, importing images.
Okay, so I think that helps us transition to the next question. This is from Annie. Annie wants to know, where do you find additional textures?
Aside from the ones that come with the Rhino.
Yeah, I think so, yeah, aside from what's already there.
So I don't remember, and I'm sure Pascal does know the name of it, but Brian James, who's this really great rendering guy who works with McNeel, has a website where they share a bunch of stuff that you can drag into Rhino if you want pre-made textures, and you can also make them yourselves, although I think at this point it's not as necessary to do that. Pascal, do you happen to remember the name of the website that Brian James has that has all that great rendering stuff?
I don't have it at my fingertips, but I can get it easily.
Okay. I don't have it either. But if you Google Brian James,
I'll find it.
You'll definitely, that would be a great resource. That's a great resource for all things rendering, and that would be a great place to start.
The other thing is that there are a large number of procedural textures available in V5 Render, so you can roll your own within that context.
Yes.
Roll your own.
That's true.
Cool.
Yes. Within that context.
But yes, within textures. Okay, so I have one from Mark. I'm not sure this is Revit related, but can you import a Revit file to Rhino? This might be something for Pascal.
That might be something for Pascal, actually, because I don't know. I mean, I do know that Rhino is
not directly.
Go for it, Pascal.
There is a workflow. Several people have worked out workflows to get data between Revit and Rhino, but it's not a direct import.
But you know what? So some of these, we have a lot of questions, and what we'll try our best to work with Maia and Pascal to answer them through our blog as well. So I mean, if you can't find an answer here, we'll try to share that blog with you guys as well. Just a quick reminder. Let's answer a few more questions here. Let's see. Ooh, this is from Linda. Will Rhino Gold 4 work with Rhino 5?
From what I understand, and I don't know for sure, but from what I understand, yes, that's what they were saying. So I know that Rhino Gold last release did not work with Rhino 5 at all, but I think that it should. Everyone.
Cool. Okay. And Juan wants to know, is there a way to print with hidden lines, not as a bitmap or a screen grab? The Make 2D option is way too slow for very complex scenes. So yeah, basically, is there a way to print with hidden lines?
To print with, sorry,
Hidden lines?
with hidden lines showing?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to pass that one on to Pascal too. Sorry, Pascal.
The easiest way is to use the technical display mode.
The technical display mode? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you set your display mode to technical, you can show hidden lines, and that prints nicely. If you make a layout with technical.
So the technical is one of the new display modes in
Yes.
Rhino v5, and it shows, I mean, this is not a good example, but if I just close this out,
You show your finished piece and it'll look good.
yeah. Well, yeah, there we go. So what you see is that the lines that are lines that we could see, not hidden, are solid, and the lines that we cannot see, the hidden lines, are dashed, right? So this is, this is one way of getting a technical drawing with hidden lines, if that's what you're asking for. I don't know if that's...
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, definitely
And then
you
if
can
you
see.
want it to print, just turn off F7, which is your, press F7, which is your graph, right, or your construction plane graph, so you won't see that if you needed to get rid of all of that construction plane stuff behind it.
Hopefully, Juan, that points you in the right direction, and we'll see if we can answer this question completely through the blog as well. Okay, one more. Let's see. Jay wants to know, will we ever get stones to work with in Rhino 5 for those of us in the jewelry industry?
What does that mean, stones to work with in Rhino 5? I'm sorry, I wish I could talk to you guys each individually. If you mean, well, can we quickly, can you type in what you mean by getting stones to work in Rhino 5?
Gemstones like in Matrix. Thank you, Jay.
So you mean importing the gemstones into Rhino 5 from Matrix? Because in my experience, they work really well. So I don't quite understand the question. I've had really great experiences with using gemstones in both V4 and V5. Gemstones built in Matrix and in Rhino Gold.
Okay, so Jay responded with like having your own library within Rhino.
I think that you can have, like I have Rhino files that I've created that are specifically libraries for stones, for example. So what I do is I have a stone library within a specific Rhino file, and I also have in that Rhino file I have a bunch of other jewelry specific techniques and measurements and stuff like that, and I just can copy them to clipboard and put them into my new files whenever I need them. I don't know if there's any easier way to have them pop up. I don't think there's a way to have them pop up every time you create a new file, but Pascal, is there a way to do that? To create a library that will be available every time that's directly in Rhino? I mean, you can always link to a file on your somewhere saved.
If you look at the tabs, you know the tabs you were showing earlier?
Mm-hmm.
One of those is library.
Okay.
And you can put stuff out on the library tab. And
so this is would be linked right to your
you could put a folder out
desktop
there
or to somewhere on your computer.
Yes.
So you could open one of these up. These are all the rendering things, but you could open one of these up and grab a stone from there. So I guess the answer is yes.
And you drag it in and use insert, for example, to place it exactly where you want.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that pretty much sums up the Q&A session, huh?
Sounds good.
Okay, I'm going to switch back to me as a presenter. Just a quick reminder once more that, for all those questions that are out there, the technical ones, the ones that are answered yet through the webinar, we're going to have them posted through our blog at blog.novedge.com, okay, including how to find Brian James as well. So let's switch it up. I'm going to throw it back to me here. Awesome. Let me know if you guys can see my screen here. Cool.
I can see it.
Awesome. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for attending. This is probably one of the coolest webinars to date that we have right now with Rhino. Maya, thank you. Muchos
Thank you.
appreciation. So
This was great. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Aurora.
no worries.
And thank you, Pascal.
Thanks, Pascal. That's the coolest name ever.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Cool.
Thanks, everyone, for showing us.
So, yeah, I mean, if you want to learn more about what Maya does as a trainer, if you want to find out more information about classes and any other her upcoming schedules, do check out the Design Rhino website at designrhinonyc.com. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that correct, Maya?
That is correct.
So yeah, go for it. She's moving to LA, so she might be doing some classes in the Bay Area as well. So stay tuned. And the Novedge webinar series is brought to you by Novedge.com. As one of the largest online design software stores, we offer a huge assortment of software solutions that cater to virtually every designer's need. If you're interested in purchasing a copy of Rhino, the latest version, it is available from us in both Canada and the United States at Novedge as a digital delivery with zero sales tax. If you're interested in learning more about this, contact our sales rep, Bob, there at bob@novedge.com. Also, we have a live and thriving online community for Rhino users at rhinojungle.com. If you want to tune into the latest industry news and discussions, blog headlines as well, check it out. And you can follow us on Twitter at rhinojungle on Twitter. In addition, we, from time to time, every week, we have 2 interviews with emerging and innovator designers out there in the industry right now, design industry, and we like to get some insight from them. And also, at blog.novedge.com, you can find more information about the Q&As today to get your answers as well. And I do want to mention that we do have a Novedge Google Hangout, which Maya is going to be participating in. This is going to be our second Hangout. This is going to be the first panel discussion on the future of jewelry design and 3D printing. So Maya is going to be there from Design Rhino, Tatiana from iMaterialize, and also Pedro from TDM Solutions, the maker of Rhino Gold, Rhino Nest, and such. So I'm going to put out information about this, and do stay tuned for this as well. In our next Novedge webinar, episode 71, Mark Andre Ferguson from Autodesk will show us how Smoke unifies the process of editing and visual effects into one software package. We'll go behind the scenes, and we'll talk about one project called Fix It in Post, which was completed entirely in Smoke 2013. So tune in, find out why more visual storytellers are turning to Smoke to achieve their most desired results. The webinar is free and will last about an hour, including the Q&A session. For more details, visit our webinar page at novedge.com/webinar/71. And today's webinar is recorded live, so if you want to rewatch this and try to pick up what Pascal's answers from this otherworldly dimension that he's in, also known as the office, feel free to check out our channels at vimeo.com/Novedge and also youtube.com/Novedge. And on behalf of the team at Novedge, Maya, do you have any last words before we sign off on this webinar here?
Only to say thanks, everyone, for attending, and to really suggest that if you want to reach out and get in touch for any reason at all, jewelry-related or otherwise, please do. Just get me at maya@designrhinonyc.com.
Awesome. And thank you, Pascal, for joining us. Pascal, do you have any last words from your otherworldly place?
No, just keep in contact and send questions to rhinojungle or tech@video.com, and we're here to help. So carry on.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody. This is a great.
Thank you, everybody. This is a great webinar, and Maya, I'm looking forward to seeing you online next Wednesday for a Google Hangout.
And at the Google Hangout.
Oh, that's great. That's right.
So find us on Facebook, Google+, and also at Novedge on Twitter. Once more, thank you, and good night, good morning, and good day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.